Hey, what's going on? My name is Ashton Hutchinson, the president of the Union of Black Men, and we're outside the historic Kelly Ingram Park, which depicts the civil rights movement in Birmingham, Alabama.
Absolutely.
And we're here with...
I'm Dee Reed. I serve as the state organizing manager for Alabama for Black Voters Matter. It's week 3. I'm still early, so take it easy on me.
It's only her 3rd week out here. And we're excited to have a great conversation with her. Stay tuned for the RV talk that's coming, where we're talking about voter engagement, a little bit about your life as well, things of that nature, and how we can get engaged this 2024 election cycle.
Absolutely.
Let's get it.
Let's go. And so, of course, you mentioned Kelly Ingram, but you have 16th Street Baptist Church right here.
You're right. I knew that was familiar.
Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Wow. So these are really dubbed as holy grounds. A lot of things transpired in this way.
So thank you so much for joining us today, Dee. We all have a few questions that we want to ask you today. And I can go ahead and get us started. So this may be a bit of a heavy hitter, but I want to know, in your opinion, is voting the greatest liberty that Americans have taken for granted in our country?
That is an amazing question. So I would say, yeah. I mean, when we initially started this conversation as we were walking, we talked about a lot of the things that transpired in this area, including the Children's Crusade. You had hundreds of young people who left Parker High School, which is right around the corner, left surrounding schools, and just flooded the streets demanding for change, in spite of the fact that dogs were released on them, they were hosed down. We've all seen the images. And in a lot of ways, those were the images and the pictures that really propelled us to now begin to see something different. And not just in Birmingham, because we know this really was the mecca for the civil rights movement, but all over the world. And a part of, that fight was tied to voting, right? How do we leverage our power, leverage our vote, lift up our vote in such a way that we can realize real change, transformative change. And I'm sure as you all are going throughout the community, but even as we are going throughout the community, we're talking to people about all the things that they care about, right? Whether it's education, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's access to healthcare, Medicaid expansion, all of that is tied in a lot of ways to the vote. And so, the question was asked if we've taken it for granted. I would say in a lot of ways, yes, because I think it's easy sometimes to forget because we don't have that same struggle. We don't have that same fight. But, we can never just forget the sacrifice that was made for us and the price that was paid for us. We oftentimes hear that freedom ain't free. Freedom ain't free. So there were a lot of people that paid the cost, and we know even now we're paying the cost, but it costs a little different. But the fact that it's still there means that there's still so much work to be done. That's why what you all are doing is important, why what Black Voters Matter is doing and will continue to do is important, and why everybody getting out in 2024 in November to vote is also important.
What has been some of the major frustrations with sort of the voting process, voter engagement, specifically if we're looking at the 18 to 25-year-old demographic and getting us out to vote, but then in addition to that, just the larger voting populace? What has been some of your frustrations in sort of encouraging that action?
So my frustration or voters' frustration?
Well, speak to both capacities. What do you think? What is your frustration, and what do you think a lot of voters are feeling that sort of discourage them from wanting to go out and vote in the first place?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we hear they're going to do what they want to do anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget in 2020, I was actually on a vote tour, and this was following the murder of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, and we were actually in Durham at the time, and we were knocking on doors.
And Durham is the premier southern city of the South. That's what one of my brothers said earlier. Sorry about
it. It's all good. Shameless plug.
Bull City.
But
shout out.
We're talking to folks just about that power that resides in their vote. And I'm, just an energetic person. So anytime I'm coming with all of this is what we got to do, and here's why, and this is how we win. Use your collective power. Just all of the things. And everything that I was selling that day, the sister wasn't buying. And so instantly, it was like the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, you know, it has to be a shift in the messaging. There has to be a shift in the story, right? A shift in the way in which you now connect, again, the things that she's concerned about with how her vote now impacts that. And so again, it's 2020, and so I asked the sister, I said, well, have you heard of Breonna Taylor? And she like, duh, everybody heard of Breonna Taylor. I said, well, you realize when we're telling people, or when we're calling for the arrest of the cops that killed Breonna Taylor, we are now speaking to the district attorney, which is an elected position, right? And so once I kind of got to a place and I'm like slow walking it, and I'm talking, you know, in a language that makes sense, because a lot of times, you know, politics can be intimidating, which is why I think a lot of people shy away from it, because you feel like you got to speak a certain language, or you got to have a certain background, or you got to look a certain way. But I think when we can speak it in such a way where, regardless of your socioeconomic status, like, you can understand it, then people are like, okay, I get what you're saying now. And so as soon as, you know, I kind of told the sister that about Breonna Taylor, about the district attorney, how you get a chance to actually vote, who's representing you in that role, which is why we always say the power starts local. We build from the ground up, right? All of your, every single local election, if you're concerned about all the holes, all the potholes and things that you gotta, you know, jump over, swerve past and all of that, that's tied to infrastructure, right? That's tied to the mayor's office. That's tied to your county commissioner. All of these are roles that you vote for. And so once, you know, we had that conversation, she's like, I get it now. She literally jumped in the van. And of course, you know, in North Carolina, you all have same day registration and voting. And so jumped in the van, she registered that day, and she also got a chance to vote that day. Wow. Not because, again, it was about who was on the ballot, but it was about what was on the ballot, right? Not the names of the candidates, because what we found, and even in this upcoming election, like, people may not necessarily be inspired by the who, but you got to be inspired by the what. And so I think I wouldn't even call it frustration, because we extend grace at BVM, because we understand that people are coming from so many different lived experiences. It's hard for me to talk to that sister about who to vote for when she doesn't have lights, when she doesn't have food in the refrigerator, which is a barrier that exists, which is why when we're doing activations like this past weekend for Juneteenth, one of our partners, and so BVM is committed to building capacity, right? Because what we recognize is we need everybody doing this work in their own type of way, with their own swag, with their own sauce. And so one of our partners in Pike, he didn't just pull up with literature, he pulled up with collard greens. Literally pulled up in the neighborhood with and I'll send you all some B-roll, so then that way you can throw the photo up. Yeah. But he pulled up collard greens, had it in the Black Voters Matter bag, along with our cards, because we're in a season where we're talking to people about those issues. But again, food insecurity. So many of us, including myself, we live in food deserts. But again, it's all drawing it back to the vote.
Hold it up. Just hold it up.
Yeah. That's why we fight back. That's why we fight back.
Yeah, that's what we doing it for.
Absolutely.
They tried to knock it down. We gonna still hold it high.
Period.
Yup.
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you for that.
So following that, I had a question in terms of young people, right, and getting them out to vote and social media. So do you feel that social media has had a positive and negative effect on, like, voting within young people and the whole politics around it? Because of course, like, we see different things on social media. We see the fake news, we see the real news, we see the tweets by you know some crazy ex-president, different things like that. So do you feel like social media has had a major effect on voting out or turnout from young people?
Yeah. No, I think it has, and it's one of just the most powerful tools also that we have when it comes to education. And that's what I was simply saying when I was told the story about the sister in Durham. Like, it came down to education. So I think with that, it's all about how we use it, though, right? And using it responsibly, and not being carriers of misinformation, right? But ensuring that when we're speaking truth to power, that we also speaking facts, right? And so I would say that social media is all about how we use it. I think sometimes it's also underutilized because, I always tell people that you may not be able to march in the streets, but maybe you can march with your dollars. Maybe you can march digitally, right? So on social media, that may be your march. That may be your form of resistance. That may be your pushback. That may be your fight back. And so I think from a how do we get more young folks engaged? I think it is, and we hear this all the time, meeting people where they are. And I think social media is the perfect place to do it. And we get a chance to be creative, right? We get a chance to shoot videos. We get a chance to do podcasts. We get a chance to add that visual element sometimes, because we all learn different, right? And I think, thinking back in school, you had that teacher that used the chalkboard, you had the teacher that used the handouts, you had the teacher that used videos. And so I think social media is that kind of place where you can be thoughtful of how you use it so that you can reach people in a way that will resonate with them.
Right.
What, if I can, in terms of thinking about how to reach out to people,
Yeah.
what have been some of the more wholesome and also funny moments that you've experienced in reaching out to someone on issues around voting? And this could be during your time for What's Black Voters Matter, and then also your other capacity. Yeah, just in life.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Wholesome and
or funny, interesting, whatever.
Yeah. I will say that what I love about the work with BBM and in some of my past work is that we target low propensity voters. And when I say low propensity, and then maybe y'all can have like the definition roll up, but these are our infrequent voters. These are the folks who are registered, but they don't vote every time, right? And so what that then means is we got to go to the places sometimes that most people don't want to go. But again, and it's a song like Nipsey Hussle had that talked about, like, if you scared to go with your people, you probably in the wrong work. And so what I appreciate is about BBM, we talk about being good on any MLK Boulevard, right? Because wherever black folks are, wherever black voters are, that is where we are. Yep. But we know that when we show up in those spaces sometimes, it can be interesting. Yeah. In 2018, I was in Florida and we were out knocking on doors, and we had teams in partnership with the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. And basically they're the organization that champion the voting restoration rights of returning citizens. And so we're talking about over 1 million plus people, right, that would then have their voting rights restored because they did their time, they paid restitution, so why not, right? Wow. And that's how I was gonna go somewhere left with that, but I'm gonna stay on track. We gonna, like King George, this train gonna keep on rolling. Yeah. And so as we're out, in this particular neighborhood, somebody comes to the door saying some very choice words with the peace, and I ain't talking about the peace of God, okay?
Oh wow.
Because they didn't necessarily know, because again, these are the folks that people don't typically engage. Yeah. Which is why they're trying to figure out who at the door, because ain't nobody called, ain't nobody text and said they on the way. So, we're out there, we're telling them, hey, we're here, and this is why there's a very important election coming up. We see that you're registered, and it's going to be important that you turn out, and, here's what's at stake. So I will say, maybe having someone show up with the peace and not the peace of God was definitely interesting. But again, listen, when we think about who Jesus was and all of the places that he went to, he wasn't just in the sanctuary or the tabernacles, he was at the trap house, right? Because that's where the greatest need was. So that's where we have to be.
He also has someone ready to cut off somebody's ear if need be. Where's this?
He had a team. He had a squad, which is why we go out in pairs. Yeah. When we're knocking on doors and we're doing all the things, like we are ensuring that our folks are safe. We go through a full training, right? We tell them, be sure that you're visible. Be sure that if one person is working the left side, the other person is working the right side. Don't go behind the house. Don't go into people's house. So we are ensuring that people are well prepared when they're going out in the field, because you just don't know what you're going to encounter.
All right, different. What's your favorite quote, and what does it mean to you?
It's my favorite.
We can go around the table.
Yeah.
We can go around the table.
Okay.
You need some time to think about it?
I'm gonna go with Ella Baker, who said, "Those who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes."
Oh my God!
And so for me, that's the motivation, bro. It's, you know, the work does get it can get heavy with everything that we experience, even as Black people, right? But it's like, because I know that this is greater than me, because I know that I'm doing a work that will outlive me, because I know that I am living out or carrying out the vision of Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright, right, in 2017, when they saw something that was possible. A lot of people thought it was going to be impossible to turn out Black folks in a major way in 2017 in Alabama, but they knew, like, if we were able to make the investment, we can do this. And they did just that and so much more, and now the organization is all over the country. But I think that is the motivation, and as long as there's a fight to be fought, we in it. Those who believe it, because we believe.
Amen.
We believe, and we're going to accomplish that thing, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna go next because mine's kind of related.
Yeah.
But Wayne Gretzky, I don't really watch hockey for real. I know he was a major hockey player, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That follows up kind of what you were saying, but also in the spirit of our trip and our whole project, you know, we could have just said this is a cool idea, but we're gonna leave it on the drawing board.
Yeah.
But we really, you know, put our foot on the gas and went, you know, gave 110% to get this off the ground. So definitely take all the opportunities that are available to you, because you never know what can come of it. We're here with an amazing guest right now, and that wouldn't be possible if we didn't shoot that shot.
Yeah.
So there we go. It applies to relationships too. Shoot that shot.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, I guess I gotta try and shoot another one. Well, let me. No, I think for me, you say, I think for me, my favorite quote is John F. Kennedy. He said, I'm gonna do it in his voice. Ask not what your country can do for you.
Yeah.
Ask what you can do for your country.
You should have just said spirit of fraternity.
Fair enough. But no, I mean, to what was already said, I'm a firm believer, if I want something to happen, I have to sort of be involved in pushing it.
That's right.
And it's the same thing with the voting efforts. If specifically in the age group of 18 to 25-year-olds, if we want to see something changing, and we're tired of individuals sort of overlooking us or ignoring us or pushing us to the side, we need to keep showing up and existing, saying, hey, no, we're not going anywhere. In fact, we are going to get in your face. In fact, we are going to put pressure on you, and you're going to have to hear us. And in some cases, you're going to need to step to the side and let us exist in that space, and do what we need to do to advocate for our people. So, yeah.
Wow, I really do enjoy all of your quotes, because I feel like they go with mine in that spirit of action. You know, when you want something, you have to work for it. And that goes into my quote. I used to watch a lot of motivational videos, and my favorite one of all time, the video was titled, How Bad Do You Want It? And so the person he was going into, he was like going through different scenarios. But one of his scenarios was when somebody with an asthma, when they're having an asthma attack, all they want to do in that moment is breathe. They're not worried about what's on TV. They're not worried about who scored how many points last night. They're not worried about what shoes they got on. All they want is to breathe. And so that goes into my quote, which is, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you will be successful.
Okay, Eric Thomas, motivational speaker.
There we go.
David Goggins loaded too.
NFL right there.
Really, because I had asthma growing up, for one, and I knew that feeling.
Why you laughing?
Say your testimony.
I'm just thinking about you huffing and
I knew that feeling.
It was the day you got 13 tackles.
Yeah, it was that day. But yeah, I really wanted to breathe in that moment, so I know like what it needs to be for you to want to be successful. You need to like put that in every single action. Yeah, I love your quotes for that reason. So yeah, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
That's a word, brother
No,
Robinson.
that is.
Man.
No, that's good. No, my quote, it goes with all of y'all's too. You know, I was gonna say my cliche, what I say all the time. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you can miss it. But no, Ferris Bueller. That's what I'm saying.
I thought you were gonna say if the play's good, the day's good.
Or another quote I say, if the play good, the day good. But it was another quote. I was talking to my good homie Don the other day. We was on FaceTime for like 3 hours talking about complacency and how people get complacent. Like they have all these big dreams and big wishes, but they don't want to do like what they need to do to get there.
Work.
So what? So like in the midst of this conversation, like we just talking back and forth. Then he just said something that just stood. It just stood. I was like I stopped talking. I was like, what? Like I know he didn't come up with it. I know he probably heard. He said, if you want something that you never had, you have to do something that you've never done.
Yeah, he didn't come up with that.
He didn't come up with that. The way he said it in the comment, I was like, oh my God. And then he was like, yeah. He thought he was LeBron after he said that. But that, I was like, damn, like if you, like you said, like if you want something, like you can't just
step out of your comfort
say
zone.
it, like I know a lot of people that just say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah.
How bad?
Right, you control your future, bro.
Just do it.
Right, just do it.
Yeah.
That's good, and I know we don't want to use too much of your time, so I have one last kind of fun question.
Okay.
Before we get out of here, but we're in Birmingham. I think it's the four of us our first time in Birmingham, so I wanted to know from your experience, what is your favorite part about Birmingham, and maybe some of your favorite restaurants or one of your favorite restaurants.
He's just
here.
trying to eat.
I'm hungry.
We hungry.
Okay, gotcha. So favorite part about Birmingham, the history. We are still looked at as the model for movement. Movements all over the world. So I would definitely say that. And let's see, favorite restaurant. So one of my favorite spots is East West. It's not too far. It's Asian fusion. Good, good little scene, aesthetic, vibe. Food never misses. You talked about taking a shot, never misses. So I'll make that recommendation. But of course, a lot of good food, a lot of hospitality. You talked about Durham being premier, but we all know that I'm just saying it's something that hits different about the city of Birmingham. But we're really grateful to have you all here, and hopefully this won't be your last time stopping.
I will be back.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
really
you so much.
appreciate it.
We
Absolutely.
really appreciate you coming in, talking to us, and that wraps up our
We
RV talk.
hold on, we gotta do the clap together.
Hold on.
Hold up.
We all members of A5A. You want to rep your org?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
One last question.
Woo! Okay.
What is a delta?
Well, a Delta is what an Alpha ain't, what a Theta want to be, what a Sigma can't, what a Alpha likes, what a Kappa loves, and what Q Sci-Fi can't get enough of.
My God. Well, you heard it here first, guys. Wow. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. They decided they wanted to show up, right? Using their platform, using their voice, using their influence, and they went on to help change the world. So I'm just extremely proud of you all for your yes, right? For deciding that you want to do more than stroll and just have a good time, but you want to build power. That's why our organizations were founded, right? On the fact that we wanted to do something different for our community. So let's get it.
I just like looking around and taking everything in. Like, this is a beautiful opportunity, beautiful trip. I'm glad to be here, glad to make things happen. You already know. We did it!